Right, guys, today I'm super excited because I get to interview Dave from OA Deals. And this guy is not only providing leads to the Amazon OA community, but he's also an OA seller himself. And he's actually done $10 million in sales, which I'm super interested to learn more about his journey and what he's learned on that road to doing 10 million. So, Dave, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join me. If anyone doesn't know who you are, can you introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are?
Yep, so my name's Dave. I've been selling on Amazon since 2016. Just a few years ago, I launched a leads list to help other Amazon sellers with sourcing online arbitrage leads. So we still also sell on Amazon. We did about 2.3 million last year, and we've done 10 million over the last 7 years. So very excited to share more and hopefully bring some value.
Over 2 million last year, absolutely incredible. Is that like wholesale, OA, RA? Just tell us, or is it all OA? What's the situation with it?
It's mostly OA. We used to do retail arbitrage. That's kind of how we really got started. We shifted more to online arbitrage kind of around the time that COVID hit. And then we also do some wholesale as well, but we're still about 90% OA and then about 10% wholesale.
This is big numbers, honestly, like 90% doing OA on like over 2 million. Fantastic. Obviously, you've done OA, you've done wholesale, and you've done RA, but why OA is the big one at the moment? Why do you do that?
When I was doing more retail arbitrage, I started hiring virtual assistants to get OA going. So I wasn't doing just RA. So that kind of snowballed to hiring a couple more VAs and a couple more, and we were getting a lot of leads, which is why we started the leads list. That just became the easiest way for me to source inventory. So we can spend pretty easily $2,000 or $3,000 a day with online arbitrage. But if I go out to a store, sometimes I end up not spending any money. So with Amazon, it's all about how much money can you invest into inventory. And right now, the easiest way for me to do that is with online arbitrage.
When I first started out, getting to 1 million in OA was like, wow, that's really impossible. That was a big barrier. But now more and more people are breaking that, taking it to like 2, 3, and even bigger, which is, certainly showing the opportunity that's available. So just talk us through, like, what does the operation look like for you in regards to doing, over 2 million a year in OA? Is it like you? Is it a team of 500 VAs in the background? What's the situation?
So right now we have 13 virtual assistants. So a lot of that is for our leads list. So we have like 11 of them that just focus on sourcing. So they go to websites, they use Keep a Product Finder, and they get a bunch of results. And then I have 2 VAs who focus on the purchasing. So they'll go in and they'll fine tune the results from the ones that all my other VAs got, and they'll figure out which sites that we can actually buy a lot of inventory from, and they'll make a list of those. I'll have a VA who goes in and purchases everything. So sometimes I'll help them with that process, like I'll look through the leads myself, but lately I started training them on how to make the buying decisions as well. So there are a lot of days that I don't do any online arbitrage at all, and the products get purchased, shipped to our warehouse, then sent to Amazon.
How does it feel to you when you have products that you have been sourced, purchased, shipped, and sold without you doing literally anything? How does that feel?
It's good, but there are a lot of problems with it. With online arbitrage, there's a lot of retailers that will mess things up, so they send us the wrong product. Sometimes we accidentally buy products that are mismatched. Sometimes we get things that are expired. There's a lot of issues that happen with online arbitrage. It's not like all passive and easy like some people make it out to be, but it is good because I am able to focus on other things, and I have a warehouse that takes care of most of those issues.
So like the operation of your OA business is sources finding leads, then you have 2 sources doing the analysis of like those leads in regards to like which ones can we buy, if that makes sense, and then you have 1 person buying them. Would that be right? Like a checkout person?
Yep, that's exactly how we have it set up.
Tell me about that journey of how you got you gave someone your credit card details, because that's scary.
Yep.
You use like 2 million in sales. That's like $1 million of purchasing. Like, that's a lot of credit card usage.
It's a little bit scary at first, but you can definitely start small with it. When I started, I got just one employee credit card and I put a spend limit on it. Really, credit cards, at least the ones that I've used, I usually use the Chase ones. They're really good about refunding you if there's any kind of fraud. So if an employee were to make an unauthorized purchase on your behalf, you could likely just get that refunded by the credit card company and then obviously fire the employee. But I've been having my VAs make buys for me for like, I think 3 years now, and I've never noticed any kind of problem like that. Most of the time, it's actually the opposite, where you give them a credit card and then they're afraid to mess up, so they don't actually buy anything. But so that's kind of the problem I've had the most. People have that concern, but as long as you trust your VAs, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
So if someone right now has a VA, let's say, for example, they're a sourcing VA and they want to promote them to purchasing, what does that process look like? What advice can you give them to doing that?
So bring them into your team and then have them start on a smaller role. And then if you see that they're providing you with good leads and value and asking questions, showing up and doing a good job, then that's someone that starts to build your trust. And we also use hub staff, and that gives us an idea of like if someone's like really slacking off or if they're really working hard.
And then like what so you said bring them into your team, but like what are the steps that you've used to like get that person where you're like, okay, now I feel comfortable? Like, can you give a bit more detail around that? I'd love to know a bit more about that.
So basically we just evaluate on if they're doing a good job or not, but I don't really have too much of a problem with giving out my credit card info just based on employees that I've had working for me. So there's not like any kind of big process that we follow to determine that.
So you got like 13 staff, is that right? 13 VAs?
Yep.
I've got VAs myself, and we've gone really process driven right now. Is that something that you do, or is it still quite like, like kind of just let the team do what they want to do? How does it work with your operation?
Yeah, we have a pretty good process set up for our leads list. Everybody will compile their leads into like one spreadsheet. We do like a new spreadsheet every week. And then from there, we have a couple VAs that will select the ones we use for our leads list. And then they'll take those and put them into like, basically, we call it a practice sheet, but it's basically our leads list that doesn't get sent out yet, but it's like basically pending. And then we have another person that goes in and double checks everything. So they'll check to make sure the coupon codes work, because coupon codes are always expiring. They'll double check that everything matches, because mismatches is a big problem with online arbitrage. That takes a while, and then we'll add like cashback, discount gift card links, and other notes for each lead. It kind of goes through a process where you're getting different eyeballs on each lead, and our most trusted VAs are the ones like determining which ones are the best ones for us to use.
Interesting. No, I like it. Hey, it sounds really good. I like it. And it's like one step after another, and then you kind of like get progressively better and filter out all the bad ones. Right, I just want to take a quick second out of the interview to say I absolutely love what Dave's doing. I love the fact that his journey, number one, he has built a multi-7-figure business, which I think is incredible, but also number two, he's building a service company, which takes hard work and dedication to not build one business, but two. Now, the one thing which I'll say, and Dave's done it and I've done it myself, is how we've done it. We've got help. We've used leverage to support us in growing our businesses and growing our dreams. And how have Dave's done it and how have I done it? We both use virtual assistants, VAs, that have really helped us support and grow our business. Now, a VA is generally going to be someone who works for you online, and most of the time we see that these are someone who works for you outside of your country, probably in somewhere like the Philippines. That's where I hire a lot of my staff from. A good salary in the Philippines is a lot less than a good salary within the United States or even in the UK. And as a result, we can use that leverage of their time to grow our businesses whilst paying them a good salary for their country. This is going to be game changing, because I've seen myself and many other sellers grow to multi-7-figure businesses using a virtual assistant. Now, if you're interested in learning about how a virtual assistant can add $10,000 to your business, have a look at the link down below. I'll drop a link there to a webinar that I recorded called How a Virtual Assistant Can Grow Your Business by $10,000 per month. Check that out. I think you'll love it. And you can see how the stepping stones to building a fully outsourced business like Dave's can obviously happen. But anyway, back to the interview. I'd like to kind of bring it back to your OA business. So obviously you've grown to 10 million. Tell me about some of the challenges that you faced over that. Like what I'm really trying to look for is like, what are the learnings that you've had that people can take away from what you've done in growing? You know, my God, you're running a multi-7-figure company now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just we didn't really grow super fast. Like we've done 10 million, but that's over about 7 years. And in my first year, I think we did like 165,000, but we never really took out like any big loans or anything like that. And I think that that was important for us because things can change really quickly on Amazon. As you probably know, like you could get suspended. There's always changing the fee structure. They're always changing rules. You're always dealing with IP claims, cease and desist letters. If you're new, you're starting with a little bit of money, like that's okay. So that's where we were. And we started with about like $500 was basically what we got started with. And we just grew it slowly from there.
I think one of the biggest things I see right now on social media or anything is kind of like how I got to 1 million in less than 1 year from start to, you know, like within 1 year of starting on Amazon, I did 1 million. Like that's kind of the new kind of like gold star, should we say. And unless you've probably got, I don't know, 300,000, $250,000 in cash to start with, you're probably not going to be able to do 1 million in sales. What's the advantage or disadvantage of taking loans out? Why should people be careful around that? Like, what have you seen? Why did you not do big loans?
I'm pretty risk averse. Some people, that's like the way that they want to go with it. But I was always scared like that something would happen to my Amazon account. And I've heard from other sellers that they get suspended. And a lot of times it's not even their fault. It's just like a mistake that Amazon makes. You got to be careful with that. If you get suspended, Amazon's going to like lock up any money that you have in your account. And then if you can't pay back that loan, it's just going to be sitting there accumulating interest. So for me, that's just like a very stressful situation to be in. So it's not one that I want to put myself in that position to where that could happen. But I mean, if you're okay with the risk, it is a good way for a lot of people to grow.
Yeah, there's a lot, even like, you know, the fundamentals are make sure you're profitable, you know what you're doing. And then number two, even if you do everything right, your account can be linked to someone else's and then Amazon shuts you down because they think you've got multiple selling accounts. That's something that you've got to be careful of. So there's always risk outside of your control that you have to be careful of. Okay, cool. Like, question for you, if people are like wanting to follow in your journey, say like, you know, 0 to 10 million, what kind of advice would you give them?
Probably I would just say the same thing that I just said, which is like start out slow. I would recommend going wide on products instead of going deep when you're getting started. So test out different niches, test out different products and kind of see what catches on. So you don't have to like go super deep on one opportunity right away. Just try out different things and ship products into FBA and then see what sells. And you're going to get a lot of feedback from that in terms of how quickly a particular sales rank sells at. And then once you learn that information, you could start to go deeper on one specific niche or category.
When you say go deep, like how deep is deep? Like, is there a limit to that? Like, obviously it's depending on the ASIN, but like, are there certain things where, I don't know, if there's like a product right now that you could spend 100,000 on for one ASIN, would you do it or would you not?
Personally, I would not go that deep on one ASIN. I think it really depends on what your budget is. We try not to put any more than like 5% at the most of our budget into one single product, because no matter how good that product is, there can still be problems with it. So we've had some really good products in the past where Amazon out of nowhere just pulls the listing down and they'll cite some really stupid reason like, oh, this has like a prescription drug in it, when the product is like a rake or something. So you never really know what's going to happen when it comes to selling on Amazon. So you don't want to have too much money tied up into one single product.
That's ASIN with Amazon. What about, when we say go deeper, what about categories and suppliers? What if you put all your money into one? Like, let's say, for example, you're doing Nike right now. That's a brand. Is there a certain like metrics you'd think about? You said 5% of money into one ASIN. What about suppliers and categories or brands, for example?
For categories, I wouldn't really put a restriction on it. For brands, you might not want to go all in on one brand, because I have seen certain brands get gated that you can previously sell. So one that comes to mind is Bare Minerals, is a cosmetics brand that was open for a long time and they recently shut it down. There can be risk with going all in on one brand. We've never been in a position where we had all of our products as one brand or close to all of our products, but that's definitely something I would consider. If you are just buying Nike, for example, it's probably a good idea to diversify, even if it's similar products like Adidas or other brands like that.
What about suppliers? That's another interesting one. What if you find like one supplier who's really good, one website?
Yeah, it's definitely good to diversify suppliers too, because they can always cut you off. Anytime you're reselling anything, if it's not a private label product, there's always going to be somebody that can cut you off. So I think people think like selling wholesale is like this thing where, hey, I'm an authorized distributor now, so I can sell this product. But a wholesaler or a brand can always say, hey, we decided we want to sell our own product directly on Amazon now. So now you're basically out of luck with that. So for us, and I think for any good OA or wholesale seller, you have your products that you sell, but you're always looking for different opportunities so that if one goes away, you have something else to replace it with.
Yeah, agreed. I think the analogy that I've kind of really thought about recently was like the stool analogy. A two-legged stool doesn't work. You need to have at least three legs in the stool. So like if you've got one brand, one supplier, and one's like, it's not really going to work. And like all of those kind of like areas that I just talked about, like category, maybe not category, but like whether it be brand, whether it be supplier, whether it be like ASIN, I probably say ASIN way too deep, but like even on brand and brand or supplier, it's really easy for a brand or a supplier to say no. And if you've got two, now you're down to one, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
But if you've got three, your business can probably survive on 66% of its sales revenue, whereas you probably would struggle on 50%. That's true. Consideration. So I think about the stool analogy. Cool. No, I like it. Thank you. So I'd like to talk about your lead service. Tell me about that, and like, why do you do a lead service is the first question. Everyone says like, hey, I do a lead service, you do a lead service. It's like, the question is like, hey man, why do you do a lead service? Why can't you just sell the deals that you find? Tell me about that.
We've been selling on Amazon since 2016, and around 2020 was around the time I started getting a lot of VAs, and we had a ton of leads via OA, and we just really couldn't buy all of them. What's a good lead for me is not going to be a good lead for other sellers and vice versa. So for example, a product where you can only buy 5 units and it's got maybe $5 profit on it is probably a great opportunity for a beginner seller. But as you scale up, you're not going to be wanting to buy just 5 units of a random OA product. So we just felt a lot of those leads were going to waste. And so we launched a leads list in 2020. It's been operating ever since. Most of the time our spots are sold out, so it's had a lot of good demand and positive feedback in the Amazon community.
So tell me a bit about like, why do you have that? Like, obviously you have these excess leads that you're doing, but the question is like, why do you separate your time? Why are you not focusing down 10,000% onto Amazon? Let me ask that question. And how do you separate your time? Because I'm sure there are people right now who want to maybe do an Amazon business and maybe run something else. We all like the idea of multiple streams of income.
That's basically it, is I wanted to diversify my income a little bit. Like I said earlier, with Amazon being able to change the rules or suspend you at any time, it's like a good idea to do other things where you're bringing in some revenue not on Amazon. So for the first 3 to 4 years, we were focused just on Amazon, and that was great, but it's always a good idea to do other things. Doing a leads list was easy because we were already doing the Amazon stuff and we had the leads available. So then it was just building out a process to distribute those to other sellers. As for splitting up my time, it can be a challenge sometimes, but I try to set up the Amazon business to where it kind of runs without me, and I try to do the same for the leads list. There's always things that are popping up, like when you're running 2 different businesses. services. So as like the CEO, you're like the final filter of like all of the problems that come up that only you can solve. So I'm still very busy, but luckily I hired good people to where it's possible to do all these different things.
And give me an understanding, like how much time do you spend on your Amazon business and how much do you spend on the lead service?
It kind of varies throughout the year. We're trying to launch a new list in the next month or two. So this month I'll be spending more time with the leads list. But like last month, for example, I was pretty much all focused on Amazon.
What's the least amount of time you can spend on Amazon? Because it sounds like you've got it pretty much outsourced. You've got a whole team doing it all. You've just got to check some deals. Like, what's the minimum amount of time you can spend per week on Amazon?
Like 1 to 2 hours per day. So maybe 10 hours a week or something.
Nearly Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week.
Yeah.
Dave, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way they can find out?
Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and it's at OA Deals. So that's the best way to get in contact.
Fantastic. Well, if anyone wants to know, do have a look down below. I'll drop all the links down below this so you can get in contact with Dave. But Dave, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing. Obviously, two things. Number one, well done. 10 million is an incredible number. Over 2 million last year. I think that's absolutely insane. But also more impressive the fact that you're running like another service on top of that. And it just shows what is possible when you can focus your mind on things. So thank you so much today for sharing and taking time out your busy day to share with me and everyone watching. It's been a real pleasure. And hopefully also I can see what's going on in the next year and where you've taken the business to, and even the lead service as well. That would be great.
Yep, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.